What's up, UFO Garage? We've got a pretty special treat for you guys. I want to introduce Eric Mitchell. When I first heard his story, I've been telling you guys, the Fenton Files with Lori and Fenton. One of the first times I heard her show, I actually heard his story, and it absolutely blew my mind. And I probably listened to it a good 8 to 10 times in a row just because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And we hung out with him yesterday. He had a great talk yesterday, and I'm super happy that you're here, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Super
yeah,
happy
it was
that you're
an
here.
absolute pleasure. You guys helped me out so much. I mean, I'm so bad with electronics and everything, and you guys just jump right in there and save my butt. Otherwise, it would have been a terrible talk.
No worries, man. No worries. So just for the listeners, man, go on ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell us who you are and why you're here in this position right now.
Oh, God, do we have enough time?
We don't, but we're going to do another one
yeah.
later on down the road.
This is the short version.
I was a single father, 4 kids. I was a very simple, laid-back country guy, deep southern draw. And one day I woke up standing outside of my front door, and I had no idea how I got there or what in the world it was that I was looking at, but it was like a 40-foot in diameter miniature sun just floating over the street in front of me. And I just couldn't fathom what the hell that was. Of course I didn't think UFOs. UFOs to me were like a silver disc in the 1950s film where you have a little fishing string, So yeah, woo! I didn't believe in any of that stuff, and so I went inside after about 20 minutes of staring at this thing, and I left the door open so I can keep peeking at it, and several hours came by, and it was just there. It didn't bob, it didn't weave, it didn't do or sound or anything. So I figured, by first light, the optical illusion is going to become really apparent, and I'm going to be able to laugh at myself and get to the day, drink some coffee,
Right.
take care of the kids, get up, go to work, and live life. And by around 6 a.m. when the sun was coming up, it was gone, so I thought, well, damn it, and throughout the day I was really upset about it. It really bothered me. Normally I'm the happy guy at work, messing with people, having fun, but it was I stayed pretty quiet. And about halfway through the day, I remember being at the dentist office one time, and they're drilling my teeth, and I'm looking at this magazine talking about ball lightning. You know how we all sit around and pretend to read the magazine while we're, it's just so, it's like, this is not interesting. I would never do this, but since I'm here and there's nothing else to do, and the guy next to me doesn't look too exciting, I'm going to read a magazine. But later on that night, about 9:30, I got the homework done with the kids, the television time and all that stuff. I went outside for a smoke, and I went outside, and I'm kind of pacing the one-story apartment, just looking up at that spot, going, "Wow, ball lightning! I should have woke up the kids. I should have took a picture." And the kids have a camera, and about the time I threw down my cigarette butt, I see this big flash at the corner of my eye, and there it was, up there just above the apartment again. And I went, what the hell? And it slowly started to dim off, like if you were to turn off a light bulb in slow motion.
Right.
It just slowly dimmed off, and it was moving about 2 miles an hour in front of me, and then it slowly would dim back on. And sometimes it would look like a egg shape or a diamond shape. It would seem to be different shape almost every time, but predominantly it was spherical. And it started following the tree line coming toward me. To my right-hand side, and it almost made like a circle or a horseshoe to kind of circle around and end up behind where I was initially standing. And it was above my apartment, just above my apartment door. And by then, my knees are frozen, my hands are shaking. I have no idea inside my mind what to think of this, There's no way it's a military application. When you see this thing up close, you go, oh my God. Those goats that just freeze up and fall the hell over?
Yeah.
Embarrassingly enough, that was me. I froze completely. So the thing flashed twice really fast, and then it shut off like a bullet. And you would totally expect like wind to hit you. You would expect a sonic boom. You would expect something. but
Right.
like a ghost, it was just gone. No sound, no anything. And I stayed up, and I'm just terrible with computers. I really am. I get around electronics, they mess up on me and everything. But I grab my daughter's computer and I'm like, where's the Google bar? Because I want to know what the hell this thing is. But I ended up like half the night looking at like conspiracy theories and, people that have a cracker, but their cheese is kind of slid off the top. They're not all there. So I didn't find what I was looking for. I finally fell asleep about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the next day after work, I had water pump problems on my car, and it was overheating. My neighbor Dan from across the street, he was from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He spent 8 years there. He just moved back in with his wife, and he came out, and we're working on the water pump, and hopefully it's a damn hose. Please, God, let it be a hose. It wasn't. It was the water pump. So that's a $325 part. I'm like, damn it, upset about that.
Damn hoses, man.
Yeah. Well, Dan and his buddies, he was excited about his wife's cooking. She's a big black woman. We called her Mama, and she'll tell you like it is, And she was making fried chicken and all kinds of, man, if you ever eat it at her house, food, it's good.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, so he was excited about that, and we're going to work on the water pump later. So he went inside, and, she leaned out. She go, how them babies? I said, hey, Mama, the babies are fine. They're doing good, and all that stuff. And, of course, I was upset, frustrated, financially. Holy crap, this is going to set me back so bad. And Dan came running out with a beer. He said, here, man, this will calm your nerves, just have a beer. So I was talking to him, so I just put it on the top of my car. We were talking, and he said, man, you'll make it through this. Don't let it run you down. It's going to be okay. So he goes back to go into the house, and I step back to grab that beer, and I'm standing on my shoelace, and I untied it. It's like, my God, what else? So I knelt down, and I'm tying my shoelace, and I felt this rumble on the top of my head. And at first I thought, you're at the urinal or something like that, and you get the chills and your damn shoulders shake or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought some kind of odd episode was, beginning to happen there with that. But all of a sudden it was like somebody turned the volume all the way up. And if you ever stood in front of like a rock and roll, speaker during a concert, you feel that vibration in your chest.
Right. Yeah.
If you can only imagine that times a million being applied to your brain, I mean, I hit the damn ground, boom, and the only thought that I could force through my mind was, oh my God, I'm being killed. This thing, whatever is killing me, and I knew that I was throwing up. I was trying to observe. That's what you do, and even if you're in a car accident, everything seems to slow down, and you're observing, oh my God, I am so screwed right now.
Right.
In such a slow motion. So my senses were just trying to pick up as much information as possible. So I know that I was throwing up because my throat was open for a long period of time, like 3 times in a row. So I know I was throwing up. But other than that, all I could do is just, holy crap, how do you articulate that? How do you explain, that? And it wasn't but 10, 15 seconds. I pushed myself off the ground, and I felt as if a magnet was kind of swaying me back and forth, like a magnet above you, and you were the opposing, force. Right. And I was sliding a little bit back and forth, but I picked myself up, and I looked above me, and the object was directly above my head. And so it flashed again 2 times and then darted off the opposite way it came the night before, or it took off the night before. So, I mean, I really couldn't do much. I wanted to, call 911. I was scared. I was weak. But I crawled to the front door. I made it there for a little while, and I really couldn't move much. I was messed up. I was sweating. I was so overheated. When you're 21 years old and you go to like a party with your friends and you drink so much and you're gonna die, so you just want to find that cold spot in the floor to maybe say your last words. Maybe someone has to pee and you can console with the last moments of your life. That's that feeling. Otherwise, but I never got to that beer he handed me, so I didn't drink it all that night. But I did make it to the bathroom floor, and I was trying to go to throw up, and I didn't make it. I just found the cold floor, and that was it. I was passed out.
Whoa.
So the next morning I woke up around 5 a.m. and I was covered in vomit and blood. My nose was bleeding. My left ear was bleeding. I was in a state of animalistic shock. You ever scare a tiny animal that just wants to curl up in the corner and get away from everything, and there's no erratic sense to it, being scared of the wall next to you, or just completely, I can't explain that, but fear beyond absolute belief. And I jumped into the bathtub, closed the curtain, and I turned on the hot water and just let it rain on me for a little while, get some of that blood off of me. I was still fully clothed. I didn't have my shoes on, but I was still fully clothed. But just to feel the moisture on my skin, because my skin was burning as if, I was in the, sun all day and had too much Irish heritage, But, once it ran out, I got out, I changed my clothes, and I went in. I was insanely thirsty, and I was brewing a pot of coffee, and I went, damn, I have cranberry juice in the fridge. And I just clean clothes on and everything.
So you were like dehydrated in some way.
As soon as I knew I was thirsty, but as soon as I had that moisture touch my lips, I was like, go. I had to go. I was just going after it like I hadn't drank in weeks.
Right.
And I was spilling it all over my shirt, my white clothes. I didn't give a shit, all over the floor. I apologize for the language, but
no worries.
No, we cuss a lot, so
yeah.
It didn't fucking matter.
I went after that thing like a calf, I'm just, oh my God.
Right.
I have to have it. And then I started feeling this rumbling feeling on the top of my head like the night before. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more scary than that. I'm thinking, this thing is back, it's above my apartment, and it's about to do it again. So I grabbed my counter next to my coffee pot, and I braced for impact. I wasn't going to go all the way down. I was going to have some kind of, it's funny to explain it, but reality's reality. I was going to have some kind of control this time. I wasn't going to be knocked down all the way.
Right.
I was going to try to fight it, or maybe if I can maneuver around the counter, I can get away from it. If it's some kind of directed thing that's coming down at me, I can swing around the counter. I could do this. I'm more conscious this time.
Right.
And
ready for it.
Yeah. And then, all of a sudden this vibration just goes away. And, I'm going, thank God. I'm okay. Thank God. So I go over to the couch. The kitchen's, right next to the couch. I go and I sit down. I'm panicking. I'm thinking, I need to go to the emergency room from what happened the night before. But what is the doctor going to think if I tell him what happened to me? And, oh man, so many things went rushing through my mind. But
I can only imagine.
Yeah. What do you say?
What do you do?
Yeah.
I'm a single father with 4 kids. They have no family. Their mother was, an addict and not fit to take care of them. What's going to happen to them if I get locked up in a padded room for saying exactly what happened to me?
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's heavy.
It's really bad. And I thought, I definitely had all the signs of, what is that? Like a heat stroke.
Yeah.
And it was really bad. And I was burnt in certain places. My skin was burnt.
So it's like it just zapped everything out of you almost. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. I've learned so much about that particular instance since then through some really brilliant scientists. But at the time, I had no idea what was going on. And my brain was so erratic that I attributed that to anxiety. I thought, since my brain's going all over the place, it's anxiety. What was really happening was the beginnings of savant syndrome, which is incredibly terrible and can be confused with anxiety easily because your brain just bounces all over the place and you can't keep track of yourself.
Right.
So several times that morning I would get that vibration, it's seemingly on the top of my skull and almost like I can feel a muscle in the middle of my mind. And once I noticed and located that consciously, I relaxed it. And the moment that happened, it all went away. So I jumped up, and I'm seeing this as I'm telling you this. I haven't talked about this in a while. I started walking back and forth in front of my coffee table, and I'm looking at my hands, and I'm going, no, 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 this cannot be real. And I would stop, and I just closed my eyes, and I slightly did it again. And I went, oh, God, hell no, because it's real. I actually did that. So obviously now I have a brain tumor or, it's something, incredibly seriously wrong with me. And, you can break a finger or a rib, maybe even have a leg amputated from your body. The scariest shit in the world is something wrong with your brain. That's just morbid as hell,
Yep. There's not a lot you can do about most brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those organs they don't fix. So that was really scary for me, and it was impossible to adjust to. I think the fact that I was a single father, and they relied on me, I had to somehow make it from one day to the next with all this going on. But this object didn't quit. It kept coming back. My neighbors started to notice. I mean, how could you not notice a 45-foot sun in your yard?
Yeah.
It scared them. Dan, my neighbor, man, that poor guy, he witnessed what happened to me the night before. And he talked about it. He went forward publicly and everything like that. And he told me, he said, man, I'm sorry. He gave me a hug. He was crying. He said, man, I ran. You got to know Dan. I do a great Dan impression because we've been friends for such a long time. But he's so Eddie Murphy,
right,
that when he's in the room, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I ran. He's like, I ran. I'm sorry. I should have.
Most people would,
Yeah, and that's what I told him. I was like, what do you think you were going to help me? Get the hell out of there. That's what I would have done. I would have ran too. But to this day, he still feels bad about it. Like he has some kind of responsibility. Like I'm little brother, and he could have done something. But no, I'm glad he did run, because even though he was a witness to what happened to me, it was still enough for him to really fall out of sorts in life. It messed him up too. It messed a lot of people up, on Milk Lane out there. There was a family after family. There was 20 apartments on one side of the street, and there were 3 trailers on the other. By the end of this, when the helicopters started showing up and the F-18 interceptors started chasing these objects away, people were getting scared of not only these objects but our government too.
Right.
They weren't coming out here giving us explanations. The first time we got spotlighted by a black helicopter in our front yard, I turned to my daughter and I said, "Sweetheart, run the coffee pot. Finally, the military knows, and they're going to come here, and we're going to, they're going to explain all this stuff to us." Just like the movies, right?
Yeah.
But, that's just totally not how it works. It's not how it works at all. From what I know, there was a man by the name of Lieutenant. I'm about to do this.
Lieutenant, don't say Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. He likes shrimp. No, but his name. I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
His name was Lieutenant Colonel Dallas C. Wood of the United States Pentagon, and yes, I did just name drop.
All right.
So I didn't know about this guy. He didn't knock on my door and talk to me. The man stalked us. So my neighbor Debbie, she's like, you know how every neighborhood has a cat lady?
Yeah.
Yes, I have one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was Debbie, and she, she was really cool, and she was the porter at the Lakeshore condos down the street, and people would rent rooms there and stuff, and she would change out the soaps and the sheets and all that stuff. And she called me up one day and she goes, "Eric, this man is stalking you." I said, "Debbie, what are you talking about?" She said,
paying attention.
Yeah, she said, "I'm at work. I went into this man's room to change everything out, and there's pictures of you and the children all over his bed."
Whoa.
She said there's a ledger of everything that you do, go to work, when you shop at Kroger, what vehicle you drive, your VIN number. She's got everything written about you here. She said, "This man is stalking you." So I said, "Debbie, hang up the phone, get that man's name out of the office and call me back. I need to know immediately what's going on here." I got daughters. I'm not thinking the experience I had or anything like that. I'm thinking this dude is some kind of sicko that's stalking my little babies. And so she called me back and she said, "Well, this man's name is Lieutenant Dallas C. Wood of the United States Pentagon. Well, in the very beginning, I found this guy Barry Gaunt. He was a state director for MUFON of Kentucky, and he began to open a case on me, taking witness statements, all that. So, he was taking my photos and my videos of this object. It was coming back. It was coming back. So he was really intrigued. He's like, this damn thing, most people see it once or twice and that's it. He's like, this thing's, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's coming every night. So he sent a team out and everything like that. But he took 5 people called Dallas C. Wood in the United States randomly, off the internet, and he sent them to Debbie, and he said, which guy rented this room? And she picked out the man that was in the Pentagon. He worked for the United States Pentagon.
Wow.
So it was smart for him to kind of do a lineup to confuse her, because most people would just jump into belief. But my investigator is always skeptical until it's tangible for him. And I love that about him because, what if I'm ever wrong about what I experience or something like that? I mean, the truth is the truth. The hell with me, the hell with anything else. But if the truth is there and it's recorded, it's more important than so many different other things that could bother our minds with thought, And so after 42 years of doing this, you can't lie to the guy. You can't. I mean, you can't. If your hand's in the cookie jar, yeah, he's going to know it. He's going to know it. I mean, if you slightly fib, he's going to find out. So you might as well just tell the guy the truth about everything.
Yeah.
And there were some things that, well, I didn't lie to him about, but I was so uncomfortable sharing that I didn't tell him for a long time. And he knew.
Wow.
So one day I fly out, to Kentucky, and I'm sitting at his desk, and he was like, oh, by the way, Eric, he said, would you like a bourbon? And I said, well, it's midday. I know it's Kentucky, and it's acceptable, but, a cup of coffee would be fine. He said, well, before we get that cup of coffee, you want to look at my screen? And I looked at his screen, and I immediately recognized what he had on the screen. And I went, oh, no. I said, how long have you known about this? Because I was keeping certain aspects of myself secret. It was just too how do you say, it's too unreal to even talk about, and you don't even want to hear yourself say it. So it's like, I'm not ever going to tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
And it happened with Dropbox. I don't understand computers, and my daughters were sending him things, and apparently it came across the Dropbox what I was trying to hide from everybody, So this wise, hilarious man turns his screen toward me, and he said, when were you going to tell me about this?
Oh my
so
gosh.
Wow.
I felt the blood rush into my face because, that embarrassment of feeling like a liar, even though you didn't quite lie, it's, not offering up the whole truth,
Yeah.
My greatest lie is, yes, honey, you don't look fat in that dress at all. But that's that's the best I can pull off with a straight face out of years of practice. But man, geez, where do we go from there to? There's so many different directions.
Yeah, I have a question. So you spoke a little bit about the experience of going through the savant syndrome, and we witnessed it personally in the elevator the other day. You spoke perfect Spanish. Maybe talk a little bit about your.
That's what Spanish people say too. They say, "I love your accent."
It was insane to me. So maybe speak a little bit about that experience. You're visited by this entity or this sun, and then you get download, and then you go through this savant thing. I'm really interested.
A lot of people are not interested in that. A lot of people are like, well, oh wow, congratulations, you're smart. The smarter you get, the more you realize how ignorant we are. So, not smart. That's what I would call myself. But my investigator's got a hell of a sense of humor, and because he understands pain, you have to throw a lot of humor in there. That's how you get through it. Us boys, how people in the Navy and people in war, they just kind of nudge each other and mess with each other, just toughen up.
You can get a lot done through humor.
Yeah. And he calls me up one day, and he said, Eric, I'm working on this and that, and I went ba 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 ba. I mean, you just went off. No accent, no deep Southern accent. I was speaking really fast. And he said, "Is this Eric?" And I said, "Well, of course it is. And you were supposed to call me about 20 minutes ago, and now I have a few things to do and blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's going on here?" You know, he was upset. He was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Eric Mitchell, right?" You know, he didn't recognize. But once he realized what was going on and the changes I was going through, you know, he was helpful. He was there for me. I used to lay in the shower and turn the water on, and I would lay there and listen to each individual drop hit the porcelain around me, so I can keep my mind busy, so it didn't drive me absolutely insane.
Man.
You know, you can imagine every sound that you heard, a bird in the distance, a car in the distance. Your brain is just analyzing it and putting things together, and it's just so rapid. And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because, you know, a lot of people can recognize a lot of my difficulties in life, but that one is incredibly painful.
Yeah.
You know. And my investigator calls me up one day, and he's got the worst sense of humor a man could ever have. He enjoys himself. But he says, "You understand? You felt that, didn't you?"
He enjoys himself. He has a good time.
Yeah, he has a good time at my expense.
Yeah.
And if he ever listens to this, he'll be laughing his butt off.
You can cuss, dude. You're good.
All right. But he calls me up one day and he said, "Eric, it's really important that you learn Spanish as fast as possible." And I said, "Okay, I'll go to the library. I've got the day off tomorrow," and blah, blah, blah. You know, so I got to it, and, you know, I'm mainly right brain, so I remember everything almost. But reading, writing, punctuation, I get in trouble all the time. I think it's stupid. It's like, you know, but
Spanish isn't the only language, right? You know
Right.
many languages
Right.
now after this event.
Well,
Like it's
halfway through Spanish, if you guys want to laugh for a minute, I understood W, which is the letter W.
oh, wow.
And I was like,
That's a lot of syllables.
yeah, so they're actually saying double V, you know.
Okay, yeah.
So here's my humor in a library learning a language in 1 week. I see double V. That's more consensual than us saying double U.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
So here's the part that slowed me down in learning Spanish. Why is the spelling of W start with a D? You know? Mm-hmm. This was
I never thought of that.
you know,
It
so
should just be called woo.
yeah.
Or like woo.
Whoa. So in my production slowed down big time when I hit W. I was like, no, this is all wrong.
Right.
But I decided out of all the dialects that was available there, I was going to study Castellano, which was the old man language, the old lady, old man language, because there's so many different dialects in South America that everywhere you go, it's different.
Right.
So I figured I'd just learn the main Castellano language and all that stuff. And so he called me up the next Monday and he said, "Well, how far did you get into Spanish?" You know, and I said, "Nah, no te preocupes, amigo." You know, I was like, "No problem, I've got it." You know, and yeah, yo quiero toca malito, you know. But yeah,
We have a lot of like Spanish speaking things on our podcast. It's like
Awesome.
kind of a trend, you know. So
yeah. I mean, so you know, I asked him. I said, are we going to Peru? Or are we gonna, go on some kind of expedition? Do you have a case that I can help you with? Because he does that now. He's like, if he can't figure something out or decipher it, he'll call me up and say, "I need you to analyze this or that." Or so it's really cool that, thinking from his perspective, having me as a friend and confidant and everything else, it's like, well, if people can't figure it out, give it to him, and his screwed up mind will, figure something out. So I asked him, what kind of expedition are we doing? Why do we have to learn Spanish immediately? And he said, "I just wanted to see if you could." And he laughed at himself, and it's just that thing. It makes the back tooth kind of bite. Hey, Chris.
how's it going,
Chris
buddy?
Bledsoe.
Chris Bledsoe, everybody.
We're doing it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, man.
So, yeah, he enjoys himself at my
That's awesome.
expense quite a bit. And, inadvertently, in a way, it absolutely does that for me. It heals me in a way, to
Yeah.
see the way he does me. It's one thing to look up to a mentor and a very wise person and go, you're a real asshole, But at the same time, it's a bonding experience that really keeps my mind off of all that pain.
Right.
So many people like me have so much poor me involved in themselves. And I understand that. Poor me, it hurts, it's painful, I've gone through too much. Man, I fucking get that. I keep it to myself. I'll have a few beers before I go to bed or something like that, and I'll feel sorry for myself, and tomorrow's a new day. Seek positivity, seek, greatness, seek what can I do? Can I topple a university today? Can I, they say the sky's the limit, but when you're visited by stars, you tend to take a different perspective in life.
Right.
So, no, I'm not happy about everything that happened to me. I look back to the man that I was with a deep Southern accent, IQ of 110, and I mourn the dying of me. I miss that simplicity. I miss that life. And I wish I had that option of whether that was going to go away forever or not. But it was just taken. Bam. Wow. Gone. Wow. And even though I'm still me, I've got my morals, I've got my values, I'm a Southern guy. My brain is now extremely different. And you either learn to have fun with it through humor and intellect, or
right.
You feel sorry for yourself. But like everything in life and sound is waves. There's ups and downs, and you can look at things as poor me, and you could also look at things like, holy crap, I woke up this morning, I have a hangover because I tried vodka for the first time, and for some reason I'm on a podcast.
Yes.
I tell you, he's one of the funnier experiences I've ever come across.
Oh man, he's definitely great.
Oh man, you've got to learn humor.
But that's
humor.
that's so great that you kind of learned how to with this experience that you had and what's happening with your mind. Instead of doing the poor me thing, you found a way to exercise it. You found a way to utilize it. Even though it's it could be a talent or a tragedy. But you
absolutely.
found a way to kind of harness it, and it still may be tough, but it's working for you and your.
I mean, it's a good example. Like you find out you've got something wrong with your leg, and you find out you have to have it removed. There's no fixing it, so you get that news in your mind. And it's always somebody else. It can't be you. And now it's you. And you go, oh, my God, immediate surgery. And then you wake up. And the moment you wake up, you realize I was asleep because I was in surgery. My leg's probably gone, And if you go through that emotion with me as I speak to you about it, you pull the blanket up. You notice it gone. The impossibility of realization is there.
Right.
The shock of this can't be real. It's absolutely present with you at that exact moment. And I mean, Jesus Christ, if you could really feel that, if you can go through that emotion with your own leg, not somebody else's leg, not somebody else's life, but your own life, if you could put yourself in my shoes and, really take this euphemism, this, example, and go, that exact moment, that exact confusion, that exact emotion has been my life for 7 years. It is everything that's always going on all the time. There's always that underlying hum of what we just talked about.
Right.
And what you really have to realize is, okay, so do I become an alcoholic or maybe a drug addict? I haven't tried drugs yet. And I say yet, but I'm probably not going to.
Right.
Alcohol's hard enough. I'm from Hot Springs, Arkansas. I have smoked pot before, and yes, Bill Clinton, I did inhale, because Bill Clinton's from, and Bill Clinton did too. He's from the same town. I did not. Bull crap. Come on. You and Hillary both. I mean, cocaine, all that stuff. And don't let Hillary hear this. She'll kill myself. So
that's a perfect example of we've met. Hey man, I so appreciate you coming on the show today. I want to do like a longer form podcast. I mean,
Absolutely.
We only have a few moments here today, due to like the camera and like the battery and stuff. But I want to do like a longer form thing. So we have we got to get your information so you can call in and
absolutely,
do like a longer
man.
form
I mean, you
thing.
guys are incredibly awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts out there and everything like that, and I saw you guys and met you guys. You helped me out so much, and we had so many cool conversations. It was too bad we couldn't do that on radio, but
Absolutely, man. Well, this is something fun that we do, but when it comes down to it, it's not about us. It's about all you guys.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
And it's about people listening, and there's probably there may be somebody out there that maybe has something similar, an experience similar to you, and just hearing you speak about it is could help that person.
And I'm always looking to help people like that as well. Always, because I know what it's like, and I'm so familiar with it. I forget the rest of the world sometimes. So.
Well,
Understandable.
Man, Eric, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, brother.
It's a pleasure, guys.
Absolutely, dude.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna have Eric back on the show again, hopefully pretty soon, and we're gonna keep this thing going. But that's gonna be it for us. This is our last one at UFO Con, so that's it for us, guys. We'll see y'all back in Texas.
Peace.
Later.